Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So today we continue to discuss about the life of Buddha. So before the King Suddhodana, as been the Buddha fathers, passed away, so he entrusts the throne to Mahamana as the next king. And the Buddha wait for the celebrations of the new kings to attend. So after that, he still stay around Kapalivastu, that's the capitals of the second class, for 3 months. So one day, his aunt, Mahapajapati, we remember that this lady took care of him right after his mother's Maya passed away 7 days after he was born, until he was 16 years old. So after the king passed away, so his aunt brought many robes to offer to the monk, and also request to be ordained as a nun. So she requests and explained to Buddha that if you would allow the woman to be ordained, many will benefit. So since many princes have left home to become monks, so their wives stay home and they want to study the Dharma as a nun too. So do I. I want to be ordained myself. It would be a great joy if the Buddha allow us to join with the Sangha. And since this is the only wish I have after the king passed away. So hearing his end to request the Buddha to ordain her, so the Buddha was silent for a moment. And so after that he responded, "It's not possible." So the lady Pajapati made the request one more time. I know this is still a difficult issue for you. If you allow women into the monastic communities, since the communities of society would not accept that, and they would resist from that. But I believe that you could allow us to end the monastic life, no matter what reaction or resistance that we have in our communities. So at that time, even the lady tried to explain and convince Buddha to allow her to become a Buddhist nun, but somehow in the second times, the Buddha remained silent. And after that, he said that in this city, Gaham, there are also many women who want to be ordained, but I think it's not the time yet. So at that times, Gautami again pleased the Buddha the third times, but the Buddha respond in the same manner. So she was disappointed and left the park to come back to the palace. Yes, but somehow she still had the determination to become a Buddhist nun. So later on, Buddha returned to Vesali, you know that the distance from the Kapipalastu um, to Vesali is feel far. Uh, so let me type for you. So you can see the map where the Buddha went. Okay, here. Let me share with you the map so that you can follow what I try to explain. So let's see here. Okay, here. This is the Kapilavastu. Now this is the capitals of the second class, and the Buddha walk from here to Vesali, right here. Is quite distant, and remember, in the past, people work on food, work by food. Of course, they may use the horse or the cow carriage, but still, for the Buddha and his monastic disciple, usually they just walk around by foot. So after staying at the Kapilavastu for 3 months, the Buddha returned to Vaisali. And what happened now? And you could recognize as the lady Ogotha Lee. She recognized the Buddha had left the city, and so she gathered all women from the courts and the era who wished to be ordained to walk by foot from Kapilavastu to Vaisali to see the Buddha. And of course, they include many young women who have not married and many ladies from the court. So most of them belong to the second class. And so she told them that I believe that the Buddha would accept us because enlightenment for all. Everyone has ability to attain enlightenment and liberated. And the Buddha even accept the low class people, the untouchable people, and display people into the Sangha. This is no reason for him to reject us, but we need to put our determination to show that we really want to become a Buddhist monk in his monastic communities. So after that, she suggests all the ladies to share their head, to get it off their beautiful clothes and jewelry. They put on the yellow robes as the monks, and they walk barefoot from Kapilavastu to Vesali, where they would request the Buddha allow them to be ordained as Buddhist monks. So this is the way she tried to encourage the ladies who want to become Buddhist monks, as well as to prove to the Buddha that they are sincere, really to follow the footsteps of the mendicants. So all of them agree with her, and they follow her. So they recognize Gautami as a elderly ladies that could guide them into the spiritual path, especially going to see the Buddha to be ordained. So early morning, on his way to get to the water from the lake, somehow Ananda, the Buddha attendants, he met Gautami and 50 other women that standing not far away from the Buddha huts. So all of them shaved their hair and wear the yellow robes. Um, their feet was swollen and bloody. So at first, Ananda thought this is Buddhist monk, but later on he recognized Lady Gautami, and somehow he could not believe his eyes, and he asked, "What's going on? Where have you come from? Why so tight, and why are your feet so bloody?" Uh, and so forth. So the lady go to me, respond that Rainbow Ananda, we have shared our head and give away of our beautiful clothes and jewelry. We don't need those possessions. We just let the Kapila Vatus and have worked for 15 days. Uh, Sleeping on the roadside and bed on foot in this small village along the way. So the only wish we want to have is that we come here to request the Buddha to ordain us as Buddhist monks. So please, on our behalf, uh, go back to the Buddha hut and make that request for us. So Ananda, you pity on them and say, "Well, please wait for me here. I will go to the Buddha hut and report what's going on here, and I would try my best to make this request on your behalf." So when Ananda went to the Buddha hut and present to the Buddha the issues that Lady Gautami and others ladies wanted to be Buddhist nun. Uh, so the Buddha at first did not say anything. So Ananda went further and asked, uh, "Is this possible for women to attend arhatship?" So Buddha say, "Definitely." So Ananda asked, "Then why won't you accept them into the monastic communities?" Lady Gautami uh, was the one that raised you when you were little, and she loved you like your son. Now she has set her head at the renounce of her worldly possession. She walked all the way from Kapilavatthu to here, Vesali, with all the ladies to prove that they are sincerely to be Buddhist nun. So please compassionate, uh, allow her to be ordained. So at first, the Buddha still keep silent uh, for a while, and later on, he uh, told them that, well, if that's the case, I can allow them to be Buddhist nun with some conditions. So the Buddha explained further that uh, if they want to become a Buddhist nun, they should abide more precepts than monks, as well as the 8 rules of respect to the monks if they want to become Buddhist nun. So, for example, they need to follow these 8 rules, like the nun will always respect the monks, even if she's older or have practiced longer than he has. Second one, that all nuns must spend the retreat season at the center within the reach of certain monks in order to receive a spiritual support for the study. Number three, the twice among the nuns should send someone to invite the monks to decide on the day of a special observation. They should visit and teach them and encourage them in practice. That means they should invite at least one monk to their communities to teach. And number four is that after the rainy season, the nuns must attend the pararana ceremony and present the account of the practice, not only before the nuns but also before the monks. That means after the 3 months after this retreat, all nuns should report their practice and dependence to the elder monks and nuns. So number five is that whenever they practice precept, she must confess in front of the monks and nuns communities. And this is that after a period's practice as a novice, the nun will take a full vows before the communities of both monks and nuns. Number seven is that the nun should not criticize any monk. Number eight is that the nun not supposed to give any Dharma instruction or teach to a community of Buddhist monk. So those are the eight conditions or external rules that the nun need to follow. The Buddha mentioned these eight rules to Andana and say, well, you go back to see Lady Gautami and explain to her these eight special rules. And on the top that the nun supposed to follow more rules than monk. If they accept these conditions and follow the precept as I have laid out, they can be ordained. After that, Venerable Ananda went out and met Lady Gautami to present the rules and explanation of the eight external special rules for them to follow. And so he mentioned further that these are the rules that if you want to become a Buddhist nun, you should follow. So Lady Gautami was so joyful and happy, and she replied that Venerable Ananda, please tell the Buddha that we are delightful to accept those precepts and rules. So I will follow them for the rest of my life as long as I am allowed to be Buddhist nun. So after that, Venerable Nadana went back to see the Buddha and informed him about Lady Gautami's response. And from that time on, the Buddha organized the ordination for those women to become Buddhist nuns. So of course, all those 51 women were then at the same times, the same day. after that, the nun Mahapajapati pay visits to the Buddha and say, please guide us uh, uh, in the practice of attaining liberation. That means nirvana. So the Buddha say, yes, the most important thing you need to recognize that you need to understand or control your mind. You need to practice meditations on the body, feeling the mind, and observe the mind. If you practice day and night, and eventually you would gain experience, and eventually you would overcome all kind of attachment or emotional fluctuations. So eventually you would attain awakening or arahantship. So let me stop here for a while, so that we can discuss some issues. At first, why did the Buddha were reluctant to accept the woman into the Buddhist communist Sangha or the monastic Sangha? So there's many reasons. Of course, if you think about the context in more than 2,500 years ago, the condition, the environment, the culture, the custom, and so forth are quite different from nowadays. And of course, for the male in the past, they would go out to hunt, to do farming, to do heavy works. And most of the time, the woman, the lady stay back to do house chores and raise the children. And during Buddha times, there's no woman allowed to become a mendicant. That means to let the household to be the nuns. So this is kind of revolutions for the religious communities. So that's why at first the Buddha is so hesitate to accept the woman into the monastic communities because of the sentiment of the religious communities during that time. So he did not want to disturb the harmonies among religious traditions. He did not want to break the traditions and the custom during those times. That's one of the reasons why he hesitated. Another thing is that according to the Buddhist traditions, monks supposed to go out beg for food wherever they live. They may live in the forest, the mountain, on the rural area, in the city, and so forth. They did not stay at one place, so they travel and wander around. So of course, even nowadays in the modern age, it's pure inconvenience for the female to stay by themselves in the secluded place, like the mountain, the forest, and even they have to be careful at night, even during the day, to walk on the street. At some cities, some places in the United States or anywhere else around the world, that they may be harmed by others. So that's one of the reasons why the Buddha is so hesitant to accept the woman into the Buddhist monastic communities, because again, for women to walk alone on the street around the forest or the mountain is the inconvenience for them. In some instance, is endanger their welfare and life. So that's one of the reasons why the Buddha has that to accept them. Mm. And that's why later on in the Ravana traditions, um, for 1,000 years, the bhikkhuni or the non lineage was cut off because of these kind of problems that they have to deal with. But of course, for the Mahayana tradition, it's quite different because the non settle down in the city or in the rural area, especially in the temple or monastery, it's still safe for them to stay within that parameters to practice instead of going out or wandering around on the street, in the forest, the mountain, and so forth. And of course, there's some instance that some nun were raped and harmed by the bad guys, even during the Buddha times too. That's why at first Buddha hesitated to accept them into the Sangha. And you wonder why the Buddha wait until Vimbananda to make the request on the behalf of the Lady Gautami to accept them. Of course, because of those hesitation, the Buddha have not accepted them yet until Vimbananda made several of requests, and especially when Vimbananda asked the Buddha that whether the woman could have abilities to attain enlightenment or to attain the arhatship or not. So the Buddha replied positively that yes, woman can attain arhatship or liberation. And in certain sutra, especially Mahayana Sutra, also mentioned that Vembo Ananda made request to the Buddha on their behalf so that they could be ordained as Buddhist monk. And he also mentioned that according to Buddha's teaching, he mentioned that the Buddha in the past used to have the four types of disciple, the monastic disciple and the lay disciple. The monastic disciple include the monks and nuns, and the lay disciple, of course, include the woman and the men. So that's why Vimbananda made that request. If the Buddha in the past had those four types of disciple, why don't you accept the woman into the Sangha, the monastic communities? So that's why the Buddha eventually accept that. And again, some of my students, they mentioned that because of the intervention of Vimbananda, the Buddha would consent and accept the woman into his Sangha. And they mentioned, probably Vimbananda more wise than the Buddha and more compassionate than the Buddha. Actually, that's not the case. In Buddhism, the Buddha is always wait for the right moment to teach others. Because he want to see all people's sincerity before he provides some type of teaching. That's why after the Buddha reject Lady Gautami 3 times, and he went back to Vesali, and later on Lady Gautami and others, court ladies as well as the young women follow the Buddhas to Vesali to make that request. That show their sincerity. If they're not sincere or serious in this type of manner, the Buddha would not accept them. So again, in Buddhism, there's no discrimination regardless of race, gender, class, and so forth, because everyone has potential, even in Mahayana tradition, to become Buddhas. So due to the stigma of society and the religious tradition during those times. That's why at first the Buddha did not want to disturb this type of custom that have been laid out for 1,000 years. But he eventually recognized that it's time for them to be accepted into the Sangha. So that's the breaking ground for the women to pursue their spiritual paths, and other religious traditions have not accept the woman into their order. So the Buddha is the pioneer, and he made this kind of revolution to allow the woman enter in the monastic communities, and that is the breaking ground, or that is the revolution within the religious communities. And eventually he provide this kind of opportunities for women to pursue their spiritual inclination. So that's why up to now, especially in the Mahayana traditions, there are many nunneries, especially in China, Vietnam, Taiwan, and so forth. The nuns have equal rights to compare with the monks. When they stay by themselves, they have the right to establish their orders. They have the right to build their own centers, whether it's the temple or the nunneries. They have the right to perform any type of ritual or celebration that the monk do. They have the right to accept their own disciple. So it means in general they have equal rights to the Buddhist monk. Of course, for all the religious traditions, even now in the West, especially some Catholic nuns, they would not have that type of rights. Of course, nowadays we talk about women rights, that is so encouragement for the women in all kind of profession, all kind of field, so that they could have the equal footing as the male one. So anyway, that is one of the unique point of Buddhism that could provide the woman the path for them to work on the path of liberation. Otherwise, they get stuck in their own families, and there is no way for them to move further. Another thing is that when they spell out the 8 special rules that the Buddha laid out for the non to follow, of course, on the surface, for the one who may not know much the contents, the reason why the Buddha established those special rules they may criticize that the Buddha bias toward the woman, but in a sense, because he did not want to uproot or disturb the uh, uh, general notion of the woman during those times. That's why he established those rules in general for the woman to become Buddhist nun. But in the Mahayana Sutra, especially the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha mentioned that everyone has Buddha nature, and even the female dragon princess could become Buddha too. Of course, according to the conservative views, that women could not become Buddha and so forth. But in the Mahayana Buddhist view, everyone can attain the Buddhahood, everyone can become Buddha, and even the female princess dragon could attain the Buddhahood. Not talking about the nuns, the ladies, with female one. In Buddhism, definitely we see that only human can have abilities to attain the Buddhahood. There's no way for animals to have that abilities during their present life. Even when we talk about dragon in Buddhist view, they are considered as one of the type of the dragon. And on the top of that, this dragon princess attend the Buddhahood to illustrate that everyone, even the woman or the animals and so forth, has potential to become Buddha. So that is the unit points of Buddhism. Even during the past life, there's some chapter tells in the Pali or Theravada Canyon, it mentioned that the Buddha spent one of his past life as a princess, and he still practiced the Bodhisattva conduct or paths throughout the times. So in Buddhist view, that sometimes we will be born as human, or sometimes we're born in the spiritual realms, sometimes we're born in the lower realm existence, and so forth. That's normal, depend upon our karmas, depend upon our state of mind right after we pass away. And even sometimes we're born as male and female alternately. So that means one lifetime we may be male, another lifetime we may be female, and so forth. So there's no difference in our practice, even we change the physical form. So that's why in Buddhist view, anyone can practice the spiritual path, regardless of who they are. And especially in the tantric traditions, it emphasizes on the manifestation of the tiger, the female divide, that without the female divide or tiger, so it's not easy for the tantric practitioner to attain enlightenment. That's why there's some rules that they need to abide. That's one of the rules, that they're not supposed to despair or look down upon the woman practitioner. So that's so important, it's so critical that we need to recognize. And if we talk about the 84 siddhas, that means they want to have attained enlightenment in the tantric traditions. Among them, there were two sisters, what we call two headless sisters, the one that follow the master to practice. The story is that both of these sisters, at first they were wow, they have wild behavior, they mischief, but later on they got married with two gentlemen, and somehow they were abused. And in order to escape from those type of abusive environment at home, so when they met a tantric practitioner, and that master guide them to do meditation. And 12 years later, so they went out to seek for their master. And at first, they recognized the master, but somehow the master have intention that saying that I didn't recognize you guys. And so after their explanation, so the master say, well, when you come here, you need to bring something to make offerings to me. And so they say, I don't have anything else. So the master say, well, why don't you give me your head? And of course, without hesitation, these two young sisters chop off their head, ask and offer to the master. And because of his skill, he used psychic power to put the head back to the bodies of these two young sisters. And at that moment, these two young sisters attained enlightenment and what we call the Siddha. And that illustrates even the woman could attain enlightenment. And in the Zen traditions, there's some story that mention about this female Zen that taught Zen teaching to many Zen monks. And even in the Theravada traditions, there's some nuns and lay women have provided teaching to the general public. So anyway, in this lecture, I want to emphasize one more time the Buddha always encourage people to follow the spiritual path, regardless of who they are, regardless of their class, age, even the gender, so that they could obtain liberation by themselves. So let me stop here for a while and show you some video clips about the opinions of one of the Tibetan Buddhist nun. Actually, she is Westerner, but she follows Tibetan tradition. The role of woman in Buddhism.
All written by the boys, especially monks, for other monks. So therefore, the general view of the feminine was, on the whole, rather misogynic, because women was the forbidden other who was out there waiting to pounce on good innocent little monks. So it has a rather negative view of women, mostly on the whole, which was very hard in that society for women to really become educated and to get the deeper teachings and to really accomplish. I mean, with some exceptions. But nowadays, of course, all that's changed very much. I mean, lay women are going to schools along with the boys, and they're going to college, and they're becoming highly educated. And now nuns likewise are becoming very, the first crop of Geshe Ma, like doctors of divinity, with their certificates offered by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So now the nuns, certainly more than anybody, are really coming on very much. And also they're doing much more profound spiritual practices and staying in long-term retreats. And in every way, they are recognizing their potential. And it has to be said, as far as that is concerned, the people who have really been the main supporters and helpers in this have been the monks. Once they got the idea that nuns actually could study, then they were the teachers and extremely enthusiastic and very, very encouraging for the nuns. Once the idea came that they were in opposition, they weren't. They were very, very supportive. What they are in opposition to is the idea of full ordination for nuns, which has had a very interesting war of resistance for the last 30 years since it's been muted. They still haven't decided. We're looking to His Holiness Gelun Karmapa, who has promised that he will see that it's done. We have to wait and see how he plans to do it, because everybody will be looking, and it's very important that he does it right, as he knows. But we hope he does see a way that everybody can agree, yes, that is a valid ordination. And once that is done, then that opens the doors for everybody. I mean, if you go to any nunnery and you ask them what is the main obstacle, they will always say low self-esteem and lack of confidence. It will take time. I mean, I have noticed that the first nuns whom we received, the first girls who became nuns in our nunnery, who were from Ladakh, the difference between their level of confidence and nuns who come now, who are, as it were, standing on their shoulders, is quite encouraging. I mean, the new crop of girls are much more, they don't know that they're supposed to be, meek and submissive. They are already way ahead, in what they can do. They believe they can do anything because they can see this earlier crop have done that now, and so they don't think there's anything to doubt. The first group of nuns I had, I said, do you believe that males are inherently more intelligent than females? And they all said, oh, yes. So I said, well, no, actually. I mean, it's just they have more opportunity than you do. When you have equal opportunity, you both do well. Some males are very intelligent, some are pretty dumb. Some females are intelligent, some are dumb. It's just they're human beings. It's not one is more superior than the other one. And now I think if I ask the same question, they would be puzzled by the question itself. But of course we're intelligent. Why not? Now we also have teachers from other nunneries who have finished their studies. One of them is about to become a geshe. And so they also teach philosophy and debating to the nuns. So they have role models of senior nuns who themselves are very learned. And so, it's coming along. It's coming along.
Okay, anyway, so you can see that this is the short lecture about woman role in Buddhism, and especially in the Tibetan traditions. That's what she's talking about. But if you go to Taiwan, you see that at least 70% of the monastic members is nuns, because women has more inclination for the spiritual practice, especially nowadays in modern age. Of course, like that Nang mentioned, everyone has equal footing, equal right. If we have equal opportunities, everyone can achieve to certain type of awakening, enlightenment. So there's no difference. whether it's male or female. So anyway, so let me end my lecture today, and we'll come back to talk more about the Buddha lives again. So thank you. So see you. Namo Sakyamuni Buddha.